All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to unpack one of the absolute most vital concepts in all of personal finance. So I want you to picture the ultimate financial goal for a sec. For a lot of folks, honestly, pretty much everyone, the big dream is to become a millionaire, right? It's kind of the gold standard of financial independence. But look, before you can sprint to that finish line, you got to lace up your boots and start the actual climb. And as we're going to see today, just getting off those starting blocks requires an incredible amount of endurance. So we're looking at the compounding climb and mastering the very first major milestone on your financial journey.
$100,000. Now you might be looking at that and thinking, well, in the grand scheme of becoming a millionaire, that's just a fraction of the goal. And you'd be right. But here is the massive secret that almost every single successful investor absolutely agrees on. Earning that specific amount, your very first 100 grand, is universally the hardest part of the entire journey. It is literally the heaviest lift you're ever going to make in your wealth-building career. The investors who've already made it to the top of the mountain, they all look back and point to this exact milestone as the ultimate test of their financial willpower.
So that brings us to the most important question we can really ask today. Why is the first $100,000 the hardest to earn? Seriously. Why does crossing from 0 to 100 grand take so much more sweat, time, and emotional energy than, say, going from 100 grand to 200 grand? See, we all have this awesome aspiration of wealth, right? This vision of our money just growing effortlessly in the background. But the reality of early investing is a completely different story. Honestly, it's the financial equivalent of pushing a massive boulder up a really steep hill. To understand how to actually win the game of wealth, we've got to understand exactly why this starting phase is so incredibly punishing.
Which brings us to Section 1, the uphill savings grind.
Listen, if you're in this phase right now, I know exactly how frustrating it can be. You're basically facing this massive imbalance, which is your hard work versus your small investments. At the very beginning of your journey, these two things are just totally out of whack. You're pouring massive amounts of active income, the money generated directly by your daily hard work, right into your portfolio. You're trading your precious time, your energy, your literal sweat for those dollars. But on the other side of the equation, what your small investments actually yield in return is, well, it's tiny. You are working incredibly hard and your money is barely working at all.
Let's actually break down the mechanics of this grind, because it totally validates exactly what you're feeling right now. First off, at the beginning, every single dollar you save comes from your hard work. You are the sole engine of your wealth. There's no backup generator kicking in yet. Second, your investments are just too small to earn much. I mean, even if you get a fantastic percentage return in the market, a high percentage of a really small number is still just a couple bucks. It doesn't move the needle in a way you can actually feel. And because of those two facts, we hit that third point. Progress feels incredibly slow. It feels like an arduous, heavy uphill climb because mathematically speaking, you're carrying the entire weight yourself.
But then we hit Section 2, the compounding turning point.
Now, here is where that brutal uphill battle finally reaches the crest of the hill. Enter compound interest. This is the exciting mathematical shift where everything changes, and the heavy burden of building wealth transfers from you, the worker, straight over to the money itself. So what is it? It's the powerful force where investments grow faster and your money starts actively working for you. I really want you to think about that phrasing for a second. In the beginning, every single dollar came from your hard work. But now, through compound interest, your money is basically clocking in, putting on a hard hat, and going to work for you. The interest you earn starts earning its own interest. The growth accelerates. Compound interest steps in and finally takes over the heavy lifting of wealth creation.
And this creates a super clear, totally unstoppable sequence. Check this out. Step 1. You reach that hard-fought $100,000. You survive the grind, right? You put in the hard work. Then, almost immediately, Step 2 triggers. Your money starts working for you. The base of your portfolio is finally large enough that the returns are actually meaningful, which leads directly into Step 3. Compound interest completely takes over. Your growth becomes exponential now, not just linear. Your portfolio starts stacking gains on top of previous gains like a giant snowball rolling downhill. And finally, the ultimate payoff, Step 4. Building wealth simply gets easier. The absolute hardest part is behind you. The momentum is now pushing you forward instead of dragging you backward.
Moving on to Section 3, securing your financial future.
Look, you are the CEO of your own financial journey. And right now, you have to manage your own expectations. You've got to navigate the emotional toll of that initial climb. So if there's absolutely one thing you take away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Don't quit because the beginning feels slow. Stay consistent. The source material makes it incredibly clear. The slowness is a feature of the beginning. It's not a sign that you're failing. It is supposed to feel slow. It is supposed to be hard. The greatest trap you can possibly fall into is looking at your small investment returns early on, getting completely discouraged, and just stopping altogether. Consistency is the only bridge between the uphill grind and that amazing turning point.
Because it all boils down to this. Your first $100,000 could be the turning point that changes your financial future forever. I just want to let that sink in for a second. It is not just a milestone. It's a fundamental transformation of how your money behaves. Once you cross that line, you're no longer just a worker saving wages. You officially become an investor whose capital is generating its own wealth. It is the exact moment your financial future permanently shifts in your favor.
Which leaves us with this final thought for today. You now know exactly why the beginning is hard. You know that every saved dollar requires sweat, and you know that compound interest is just waiting for you at the top of the hill to take over the heavy lifting. The math is proven. The successful investors out there, they all agree. The path is laid out right in front of you. So the only question left to answer is this: will you stay consistent enough to reach the summit? Keep climbing, keep investing, and I'll see